Sam, Red Dead Online came out this week, and it's interesting. It's not what I expected, but at the same time, it kind of is. Now that I play more of it.
Well, we sort of got a head start on it because both of us got Ultimate Editions, I believe. Is that right?
Yes, the Ultimate Edition came out on Monday for those willing to drop massive amounts of money for a steelbook, a couple of free guns, and a horse. Anyways, the biggest takeaway I have from Red Dead Online is how cinematic it is, the presentation of it all. Like, the whole opening, you start off and you make your character, and then you're in prison, and then you break out of prison. All of it has that cinematic vibe that the single-player campaign has, and even more surprising, it has a narrative. Like, there are actual narrative missions and structure here to the actual online component. When you open up the map, you'll have, all the typical stuff like death matches and, like, horse racing and all those little icons kind of spread out all over the map. But you'll also find those initialized icons you see in the single player on the map itself that you can go to. And each of these missions have a cutscene, they have an actual narrative. The character you make is always a mute. So theoretically, you can make the best character, which would be recreating the Quiet Man, and then playing as the Quiet Man in Red Dead Online, and it would fit perfectly.
Yeah, you just have to shoot birds and give the bird corpses to people.
I think another big takeaway that really, I think is a big step up from Grand Theft Auto Online is how seamless it all is. Anytime you did anything in Grand Theft Auto Online, there was always this, like, load screen where it panned up to the clouds and stuff, and everything took time to do. If you started up a race or did a mission or, well, a job or whatever, there was always that initial load time and panning up to the cloud and then waiting for the friend to join or whatever. In this, everything's a lot more seamless, and I think it's because it's all cleverly hidden behind the cutscenes. Like, there's a narrative structure to everything, and I think that's because of the fact they're cleverly hiding the load times behind these cutscenes. Because anytime you start a mission or a stranger mission, there's always, like, some sort of cutscene or narrative going on.
The other thing I liked is that a lot of the missions that you enter, if you enter in with friends, it all sort of shows all of you sort of wandering in and doing this stuff. And the other thing is, during this mission, other players can interrupt it, or they can tamper with it, as so to speak.
Yeah, some of the stranger missions have this kind of component going on where at a certain point in the mission, it'll sort of transition back to the free roam lobby, all seamlessly, by the way. And when it does that, it'll give an incentive for a rival posse within that free roam session to attack the objective or whatever you're trying to complete, and they'll get experience points for doing that. So that's, it can be a tad bit annoying if it happens, I guess, but in my time playing, I've only ever had that happen once. For the most part, people are a lot more friendly than GT Online. There are still moments where you spawn into St. Denis or Dennis or whatever, and you just get blasted on within seconds. There is still a bit of that going on. And on that note, you can't make a private lobby, it seems. Everything is just free roam based, and it's all public. And I'm assuming because of the fact some of those missions have that sort of incentive for free roam players to attack. But on another interesting note, there's also a morality system. So if you do go around attacking players and stuff, it'll drop like a rock, and you'll be considered this bad outlaw dude. And so there is that sort of morality from the single player, and during missions, you can actually make morality-based decisions. We did this one mission the other night where, after we captured this guy, he offered us to let him escape. Just put my hat on this dead body, and I'll, nobody will ever know. And so then the whole team then had to vote. And so everybody voted, just to bring him in anyways, so we all got the morality boost for that. But if you didn't, if you decided to let him go, you could get the money from him, and then probably the money for the dead body as well. So you get more money, but you did a morality loss there, which is interesting. And I think that's a neat concept. And I did a couple more of those. This time, I went with the bad decision. And so on this particular mission I ended up just capturing this woman and killed her boyfriend and whatnot for this other dude. And that was basically the bad thing to do. And I'm curious if that will actually affect anything in the story or not, if you do bad decisions and whatnot.
You're looking at like long-term consequences for the stuff that you do in the multiplayer missions.
Yeah, because there seems to be this ongoing and branching narrative, which is interesting.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder how it's going to affect things in the long run. Maybe how you said You know how you said that if your reputation's fairly low, people just don't want to talk to you or deal with you? You would think the trade-off, I suppose, to having poor reputation would maybe be the fences might buy stuff for you for higher prices or sell you stuff for lower.
The money you earn, by the way, from missions is just, it's pathetic. I've done a couple of stranger missions now, and at most you get like $4 or $5. I'm sure it gets better maybe the more you rank up and you start doing higher ranked stuff, but right now, like if you wanted to save up for a bolt action rifle, which I think is like anywhere from like $300 to $600, it would take ages. People are right to be skittish about this thing, because that was a huge complaint with GTA Online, was the grind aspect. Brand new cars would come out like on a monthly basis, and they would always be like around $1 million in in-game currency. And you can grind that out, but it would take like hours on end of just doing the same jobs over and over and over to grind out that money. And on that note, there is, or like what seems to be another like secondary currency in the form of these gold bars. And I can only assume that will be, you know, the stuff you buy with real money to skip past that other currency.
At least in the game, though, you get tiny bits of gold bars as you complete missions, like maybe 0.017 of one or something like that.
Yeah, I finally saved up enough now that I have a single gold bar, so I can get like a hat at a store. How exciting!
Oh wow.
But yeah, that's probably my biggest concern is if this is going to be a grinding nightmare by the end game.
Now, wasn't it that a lot of your stuff also tends to be locked behind ranks as well?
Yeah, like stuff like the fishing rod, for example, you unlock at rank 14. So various like clothing and then specific ammo types, stuff like that. Like if you want explosive ammo and whatnot, you need to be a certain rank, as well as horses. So that's nothing new. That was the same kind of thing in GTA Online for the most part. Like certain weapons were rank based. So I don't know. And ranking seems to be going pretty quickly. I haven't played a whole lot, but I'm already ranked 13. So if you played this thing for like a good solid week, if you put like a good 40 hours on this thing, I'm sure you'd be at least close to rank 50.
Yeah. What other things sort of carried over from Red Dead 1's online?
Hunting is back. Like, there's animals out in the open world now. GTA Online didn't have any of that. Like, even though there was animals in the single player, there was no animals whatsoever in the multiplayer component. Whereas in this, just like in the original Red Dead multiplayer, there's animals. There's hunting. You can gather pelts. In fact, like a lot of the busy work and all the intricate little details from the single player seem to, for the most part, have carried over to the multiplayer, which is really interesting. So, like, NPCs will react to you and stuff, and there's all the little animations, little details. I used my shotgun during this one gang hideout, and I blasted this guy in the neck, and, like, he grabbed his neck, and there's blood spurting out, and he fell over. Like, all the little details like that are all in here, which is super impressive. And, yeah, you can spend just hours. Like, I've been playing it like I've been playing the single player. I've been gathering flowers and herbs, and I've been hunting, and you can just spend hours on end doing that.
And, much like in the first Red Dead game, you can get mauled to death by various predators.
Yeah, predators are back, including, like, during missions. I remember I was doing this one mission for Bonnie McFarlane, who, by the way, is in the game. And I got jumped by a cooter, just out of nowhere. Just was shooting some dude, and then suddenly a cooter was on my back. So all of those, like, randomized elements of just, like, hey, a predator could show up is very much here. And, yeah, on the note of characters, it seems like a lot of the surprise characters from that fans would want to see from the original Red Dead Redemption are in Red Dead Online, which is really surprising.
So, how much of the PvP have you actually experienced?
I've done a little bit of it. The King of the Hill stuff is pretty, like, just, it feels like a giant free-for-all. You're supposed to capture this objective and then stay on this specific spot longer than anybody else, and it'll time how long you've been on there. And then there's stuff like, you know, your typical team deathmatch, but I don't know, like, the thing about Rockstar's, like, shooting mechanics is that whole, like, super auto-targety aspect of it isn't really that appealing to me for a competitive sense. It just feels like it boils down to who can lock on quicker and slightly pan up to get that headshot, or who has a shotgun. But yeah, Red Dead Online, it's a thing, it came out, it's interesting, it's still in beta. There's still bugs, like there's tons of clipping issues, and you'll disconnect a lot and stuff, and there's reports of, having, people's characters being deleted, so, watch out for that. But, I don't know, it's a good start. That said, I just hope, that single-player DLC still isn't out of the question, because you have 70% of the map of the original game in there, and you could probably just take the audio from the original game. You have the assets. I'm telling you, if they just re-released Red Dead Redemption within Red Dead Redemption 2 as like as an expansion, that'd be incredible. And also give PC players a chance to play it, finally.
It'll be a great visiting Mexico once more.
I haven't really dabbled in the bow and arrow battle royale stuff yet, but how are you folks finding the Grand Theft Horse Online beta so far? Let me know down below. And for all things cowboys and video games, be sure to head on over to Destructoid.com.